Welcome back to another great episode of Secure That Podcast. As always, I am your host, Denny Caballero, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you Elmer Miller. Now, I have always told everybody to be willing to look outside of your organization, outside of your lived experience for inspiration and for connection. Common humanity is the phrase. When we can look outside of our situation and understand that somewhere out there, somebody is experiencing maybe the same troubles, the same pain, the same trauma, and we're not alone in our suffering. Now, from our perspective in the soft world, we tend to think that we have it the worst, that nobody can understand what we're going through. But when we start to look outwardly and start expanding that zoom lens out, we can find individuals outside of our community that have endured and suffered and gone through some of the same challenges we have. Maybe not the same step by step, but maybe in the same way that we've overcome a lot, we can find inspiration through other people's struggles. Elmer is here today to tell us about his story. And I have a feeling that by the end we're done talking, we'll all be able to understand that we aren't so different after all. And we share some of the same traumatic events. And we also have the same ability to be resilient and overcome them. Elmer, thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
Now, I first heard about you from a good friend, David Usick. And, as we know, he's been on the show. He wrote a great book, The Giant Killer. And I remember he reached out. I was like, hey, yo, Denny, I got this guy. You're going to want to have him on your show. That's my David impersonation. But I don't want to ruin it. I want you to tell us about your unique background, your story, and where you come from, because I have never experienced that part of the world.
Well, that's that's probably how I find it very interesting as far as being Green Beret in the military and stuff like that. I don't know much about it. I try to learn a little bit about it, but there's a huge amount of knowledge that the ancestors had way back in the days in the Amish life. As far as where I come from, it was Pennsylvania Dutch, they call it, or they call it the Old Order Amish. They're all they keep it kind of like back in the 1800s. They don't want any modern technology, or they call it too worldly. Anything too worldly, they won't accept it. Anything like, of course, me growing up, I was a little rebel, and so, and I probably still am. I just don't show it so much.
Yeah,
so
figuratively and literally. Elmer, we're glossing over that part. It's one thing to be part of a community like the Amish community, because we only know what we see through movies or maybe TV shows, but it's not an easy life.
No, it's not. It's very, very hard and difficult at times. So, in Amish, back when I left, or even back when I grew up, I knew I will someday be out here in the world, in the English world, or out here in the worldly world, however you may call it. Because I grew up in a big farm. It was 400 acres at the time. And we sold a lot of produce and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And selling produce and stuff, people come to the stand and buying vegetables. And I keep an eye on how they drive as much as I could see, I'm a little kid standing there and trying to take it all in. I'm like, someday I'm going to try this. As I grew up, got older, and the more and more I knew I want to do this, leave the Amish and become in the world,
Yeah.
And back when I left, I left in the middle of the night. I ran down the road. Of course, I had a schedule. My good friend Erin Brown came and picked me up, and I went from there. She gave me a haircut. She gave me a shirt and hem some jeans right then and there, middle of the night. I remember the shirt that she gave me says "Fish and shut up," and I thought that was the most best shirt I could have, So, but yeah, in Amish life, everything is way, way harder as far as physical life. But it's kind of like back when before in American people or in the world they had so many cars and stuff like that. Basically, they're still carrying that tradition, and they have a huge acknowledge in medical supply stuff as far as homegrown stuff, all natural and stuff like that. I still have a little bit in me. I still remember some of it. I just wish I remembered more because back when my mom was teaching me some of this stuff, I'm like, I don't need to remember this stuff, but yeah, I should have remembered it.
Now, how many years has it been since you left the Amish community?
I'm out here now about a year and a half
Holy cow!
out here.
So that's still fairly recent.
Yeah, I yeah, I've been traveled a little bit around, you know, and but back in the Amish life, they everything as far as you're working on the farm, everything you do, it's all by a horse, horse and buggy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, it's everything is physical. Um, they can't, they cannot have anything. They will not allow anything new coming in the Amish world, pretty much,
Now,
unless it's very pushed.
yeah, I have to imagine that life of being committed to working almost nonstop. That's hard for any man. But
Yeah, yeah, it
how
is.
was it for you? Because I have to imagine they weren't very accommodating for the fact that you're how tall are you, Elmer?
I'm 3 foot 11 inches.
3 foot 11 inches, doing
Yup.
back breaking labor each and every day. And
Yeah, I did.
there's something important to being included in the work, being included as being part of the part of the community, but to not acknowledge the difference and require the same amount of output, that's a lot, man.
Yeah, I remember back in the days, everything when I was younger, when I was in third grade, I remember going to school, and of course I get bullied,
Mhm.
every of course all through my year, first, second, third. Second grade, well, going back to the third grade, I remember I was working down the neighbors were bagging 100-pound grain bags, and I'm 10 years old. And I was just so sick of getting bullied,
Mhm.
And I decided, okay, this year I'm going to work my ass off. So when we have our wrestling match, end of the school year, I'm going to win that match. And I worked my ass off. Of course, at first, I couldn't even drag these 100-pound bags. And finally, I could drag, and then finally, I could use the cart. End of that year, I used to swing them on my back. And
Wow.
when it came to the end of the year, I wrestled, and I remember I took this dude down. He's weighing 180 pounds, and I'm at about 59 pounds, And I didn't want to wrestle this dude. I thought he's gonna kill me. Well, so everybody's like, "Oh, you can't take him." Well, finally, I'm like, "Okay, if I'm very fast, I can probably take him down." And I jump up, I grabbed him right here by the throat, and I kicked him right behind the knee and flopped on his back. When he could reach up to grab me, I grabbed his hand. I kept myself away. I grabbed his hand and I pinned him across underneath the shoulder over his neck, and I held him. There was not a damn thing he could do about it.
Heck yeah,
So
hard work and persevering. That's a lot of that's that's a lot of work, but
yeah,
well earned,
I
man.
I always tell kids, like when they go in school, I know there's a lot of bullying stuff going on in schools,
Yeah.
you know, English schools and stuff, even in the Amish. But the thing is they just need to look forward and just don't back down sometimes. But I don't. I know what it is about getting bullied and stuff like that. The best thing is look forward and just work hard and make sure that they can't kick your ass, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of who I I was a little wild man back in the days, you know?
Yeah, and I have to imagine it's in that community you have to find your own strength because a lot of people will what they can see at face value, they're going to judge you and they're going to discount you, but they can't if you outwork them.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
if you have the ability to keep going to and just like you did, just like you demonstrated in that story. At first, hauling those bags of grain, that was a feat. That was hard, but you kept at it and you kept going. And that's something that's universal, no matter where you're at, whether you're in the Amish community or out here in the English world, as long as you're willing to
Yep.
work.
Yeah, exactly. And I grew up at home. We had a sawmill, and I grew up on a sawmill. Um, when I got a little older, my father had me working on the sawmill, um, tearing the back end. And I tell you what, there's many days that I was just like, "Why am I doing this job?" And
Yeah.
you know, by the time I, by the time I was 17, um, I wasn't really scared of anybody. I had, you know, I had strengths where I could easily lift a man above my head, like.
Yeah.
But it's the main thing out of it. Being a little guy, it was not easy to everything. You had everything working against you. Seems like, and that's the thing that made it very hard for me in the Amish world. Um, and when I was younger, it was a lot easier. But as I got older, I figured out I'm like, well, someday when I get 60 years old, I'm not gonna want to harness these horses up, you know.
Yeah, that's the other
And
thing that's there's no assistance from modern tech. So and it's hard to sit there and say like, hey, I don't want it to hey, Elmer's Elmer. Elmer can do just as much hard work as I can. But at 3 feet, there are differences. If I have to, put a saddle and reins on a horse, it's going to be a lot easier for me.
oh
And
yeah,
here, there's ways we can accommodate for it, but I feel like maybe that wasn't such a there weren't accommodations. It was
yeah, there was hardly any combination. And the thing was, even as far as when it goes to a bucky, I had my buggy when I was lowering the seat. I got in trouble at first. They're trying to give me trouble for lowering my seat because I should have went and asked them first if I could lower my seat, you know.
really,
And I got in trouble for I'm like, you know what? I'm making this seat for me, not for anybody else. And I got in trouble for it. And then when they came talk to me about it, I'm like, I don't think you can find anything in the Bible about not lowering your bucky seat, you know? They
yeah.
stand on pretty much on what's written in the Bible. So, of course, you have to be careful when you brought that up because they'll punish you to be a smart ass, you know?
Oh, geez.
So, but it was, I kept pushing on and then yeah, it was just there was so many different reasons why I left Amish, you know.
Man, that seems insane to me, and I don't want to be, but no, like clearly, in order to be able to control the buggy, you have to be able to sit in it appropriately, and one of those things would be to lower it for your for your comfort, for your
Yeah,
size.
exactly. Yeah,
It's a
it was
face.
just to me it was a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody listening to it, and it just seems like they just want it to be miserable and difficult just for the sake of being miserable and difficult. And that
Yeah.
I I don't
I
see
mean
how
I
that fits in line.
I mean I know they want to stand on their Amish beliefs and stuff like that. They're valuable stuff, which is fine. But me personally, if you got a man that's in a wheelchair or a man that's 2 feet high or a man that's 8 feet high, uh, what do you care how high that seat is or how he built it for himself?
Yeah.
That's kind of that's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm at. It's all the buggies are made out of wood. It's not nothing too worldly there, other
Yeah.
than
Absolutely.
they had measurements about your seat, how wide the seat could be, and how high, and they had measurement how wide the buggy's gonna be and how long, um, and how square your buggy posts are. You didn't want to get caught round them up a little bit, make them too slick looking. So there was there was a lot of that too.
And looking back, how young were you when you realized like, this is not the life for me. I'm going to be leaving. I have to find my own way.
Well, when I finally really figured out that I want to leave the Amish was probably when I want to say 13, 14 years old. I came to conclude, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna stay Amish for the rest of my life. And so it went on and on until finally I figured out that this is the time for me to leave.
No. And is there I know that there are people that are allies, or there are those that are out there, maybe other people that have left the Amish life behind, but how did you figure this out? How did you develop this plan of action to leave? Did you have
Well,
friends?
I had the only way I kept my like in Amish, I kept it all to myself, other than I talked to one person. Her name Erin Brown. I talked to her and I kept it all secret and I planned it for it, and then years and years and years went by, and finally I planned it the day I'm leaving.
Hmm.
And that's when I decided I'm gonna be leaving. It was not easy. And I believe that's why I had an ulcer before I left,
Holy cow.
because of stressing from it
Oh
probably.
yeah, absolutely. Ruminating. You're constantly thinking about wanting to get free. And I
Yeah.
would imagine it's not the best environment. But how did you find out you had an ulcer? Because I would imagine like they're probably not.
Oh, so I just couldn't keep hardly anything down. And I went to, finally, my father took me to the hospital and they looked at it and they told me what I got. So, and then I healed it with home remedy stuff. I healed my ulcer with slippery alum. It's called slippery alum
Mhm.
stuff. And then red cayenne pepper.
Oh wow.
Yep.
That does not
And
sound
then
fun.
yeah, the pepper is not it tingles a little bit. It's kind of hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got back when I was 13, I had a appendix operation.
Mm.
And I felt it on a Wednesday night and it went on Thursday, Friday. I mean, I had a bellyache Saturday, Sunday. Um Sunday morning when I woke up, I tried everything. Sunday morning, I woke up and I was breathing hard, and my sister came checked on me. She went and told my father we got to go to the hospital. So I went to Children Ottawa Hospital over in Canada. English neighbor took us there. Like the way I grew up in Amish, you can use an English guy to drive you to place if it's emergency.
Okay.
And when I got there, they gave my inside, it was leaking through.
Oh
So they luckily I went in the time I did.
yeah.
But
That can be absolutely fatal. So that's
yeah, I remember it hurt some furious. And then finally by the time all of a sudden I woke up and they took care, they had taken care of it.
yeah.
Then yeah, when I was, oh, what was it? I was 19, I believe. I was 19 years old. I was we're doing our chores, and I walk in between this two horses, and I broke this team, beautiful team, was a ton Belgian team, horses. Each horse weighed around a ton. Well, unhitched the one horse to go drink water, and the other horse, instead of just looking at her, kind of stood over. In the meantime, while the first horse is going out of the stall, I'm reaching the manger to clean the manger out. And I kind of bend over the side of my left side, reaching down in there. This other horse, instead of just looking over, kind of turned, put her back end over towards me and look over her back. Well, she slid and she dropped right on me.
Oh,
I just turned around and I got crushed. And well, I just stood there. I couldn't breathe. So I had that horse quick jump up and went over the other side and looked at me. She thought she crushed me or hurt me. Well, I tried to walk into the barn. I collapsed down. My brother found me. So he carried me in the barn, in the house.
hmm
And he was going to send me to the hospital. I'm like, by that time I came to it. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. I probably just have a couple broken ribs. Well, around, I told my sister to keep an eye on me. I said, if my face is black and blue, get me to the hospital. Of course, I didn't want to go to the hospital. My father wasn't home.
hmm
And so my sister came up and goes, Elmer, your face is black and blue. And I looked at her. I said, if you want to see me live, get me to the hospital. So I got to the hospital and they gave me 5 minutes to live.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, I had my 5 ribs broke, another three cracked, and I had my spleen cut.
Oh,
My lung was collapsed. Yeah, I was in. My sternum was cracked in the front too, and so first thing they did, they grabbed a pair of scissors and they poked a hole right on through my side.
yeah, yeah.
And I was so out of it. My sister's husband went with me, and he said I looked at the doctor and told him I hope I die when they were trying to punch a hole in it. I was in a lot of pain. Well, I remember quick as they punched a hole through it, I looked over, I woke up and I see the blood flying. He's running, trying to put a garbage can there,
Yeah.
whatever. I remember it looked like a gut shot, whatever. So it, but yeah, here I am. I'm still kicking.
Man, that
So
was now coming out of coming out of that surgery, coming out of that, was that was that the final icing on the cake? Like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of was. So that happened when I was 19. And then I after well, so I'm trying to heal up. I'm doing little work and stuff like that. And I couldn't do much the first year. Next year a lot more. Well, after I turned to going back into Amish life, you have to work for your father until you're 21. You're pretty much what they call a slave, I guess. You get He'll buy your food and your clothes and stuff like that, but other than that, you don't get anything
Yeah.
other than when somebody gives you a tip money or something like that. He might put you to the neighbor's work or wherever you're gonna go work. That's gonna be it. So yeah, after I was 21, I'm saving money up because I'm gonna be leaving the Amish.
hmm
And I saved money up and stuff, and then after my first year, 21, that fall, my father's cattle got out, and they end up going wild. So we he asked me to help catch him. Of course, I kind of had rodeo in me a little bit, where I could rope cattle.
Yeah.
So I went after. We started catching these cattle day after day, and we figure we can catch. There was like three left, I think, and these cattle were just like wild. They're like 800 pounds. And what I had a habit doing, once I come on their track, I went after them, and I told everybody just follow me on the tracks. Of course, once I'm in the woods, wherever I'm at, once I got my eye on that cow, I'm going. So the last day, well, the day I broke my leg, we're going up the road, and I decided I'm gonna stay behind everybody, and we're going up the road, and everything seems like everybody's fine. My horse wants to go. He didn't like to be behind everybody. Well, I'm trying to hold him, stay behind, and next thing I know, my saddle strap broke.
Cool.
And of course, it was a Rapian Morgan cross gelding, and the saddle slid down under it, starts rolling on or
Mhm.
sliding down, and I quick jump in front of the saddle, trying to get him off the road because I knew in a matter of time I'm gonna fly. So
Yeah.
this saddle went right in front of his back legs, tickled him, and he started kicking. I'm trying to get him off the blacktop. He reared up in the air and swing on his back legs, and I flew. My left hand, I had a handful of manes. When just before I hit the blacktop, I quick put my right arm in front of my face, and I thought I just bumped my knee, and I at first I'm like, well, I probably broke my arm, and I got up. Well, my arm, I could bend my arm. It felt a little in pain, and I couldn't stand on my leg. My leg was numb. And then I'm like, whoa, I couldn't stand on it. Well, find out it was broken right above the knee.
Oh.
And there I go. So, I had to sit, of course, it's hunting season.
Yeah.
Now, my first year, 21, I'm looking forward to go hunting finally. Like, other than just having asked my father to go. So, whatever, had to heal this leg up. And I'm sitting there one day, it's rut season. I have my rifle hanging next to the door, and I looked out there. I'm watching for a deer. I couldn't do much. I was in pain.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I see a Big Ten pointing two does down across the road about 200 yards. Well, I quick hollered. My sister Emma ran and grabbed the ammunition. I hop across that floor, grab that rifle, and loaded the gun quick. Just put two bullets in. I was gonna shoot this deer. And my father stepped in the house, and he seen me, and he goes, "Hey, Elmer, you're not shooting across the road." I remember I end up not shooting the deer. I'm standing there right at the porch post, ready to light it off, but I end up not shooting it. But, you know, I shouldn't be shooting across the road. Emma was standing there, but making sure there's no traffic coming. But, yeah, so I went through a little tough time, but I always was keep looking forward and keep on trucking.
Yeah.
It's
Man,
kinda who I am.
just some of the injuries are just like, okay. But when you put them back to back to back and you start thinking of that much impact, that much trauma on somebody that's 3 feet tall, like 3 feet 11 inches. Sorry, like that is Elmer. That is a lot. That is a lot of pain. That is a lot of trauma on
Yeah.
for a person of that stature. I couldn't deal with that. I can't imagine having a horse that size falling on top. Um, Gosh, man, you're blessed and you have an incredible amount of luck. I'm
Yeah.
grateful to have you here today, but
Yeah,
man,
I've been very blessed for what I've been through.
yeah,
I there was nothing everything I had, everything I did, I had kinda against me. Um, One thing I always thought I was good at, pounding fence posts,
hmm
building fences, because my stomach was so hard I could swing a post mole for days, you know? You know?
yeah, and it's sort of I would imagine when you look back on that life growing up, there's positive and there's negative. Being
Yeah,
held accountable to do the same amount of work does empower you and it does give you the feeling of like, I have to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to look at myself any different than anybody else here. Like I can do this work. and looking back,
Yep.
knowing that you've made it through that, but at the same time, also knowing that you wanted more in life, like understanding that it's okay to want more, but it's going to cost. And that cost was leaving your family. How do you
Yep.
deal with that today, knowing that it's not as easy as picking up the phone and calling and reaching out, that there is that definite barrier now? You're now part of
Yep.
this world. How do you go about navigating that?
Well, I still go see my parents every once in a while. He's proud of me. Like he will chat with me. Um, like they say I'm still their son, and they always give me a cup of coffee and stuff.
That's awesome. That is,
A lot of
eh,
time when I go back, I go back at nighttime because I'm trying to respect him. I don't
yeah,
want another Amish guy. Hey, there's a car there. He let little Elmer come in the house with English clothes on,
yeah,
So for that reason, I try to respect him. Um, but he's been treating me fine. Um,
that's amazing.
yeah, there was 15 of us in the family. Of course, I was the only guy that had to be little.
Well, that's a strength. That's what makes
But
you powerful and unique, Elmer. Like I say, we can sometimes look at the things that might not be a blessings. For me, definitely you know, my mental health issues, you know, but I look back at all the trials and tribulations. I look at everything. I look at my injuries. I look at all the things that I spent so much time being angry at and cursing and swearing. And now I look at it as it led me to find who I truly was, gave
yep,
me the ability to find my true identity. And it made me a stronger man of faith.
yep,
I didn't have faith when I look back at my military career. Now there's moments you're in a firefight and everybody's finding God.
yeah.
everybody's willing to
Oh,
pray when you're
uh,
in Afghanistan or Iraq. But I wasn't going to
oh,
church. I wasn't devout to anything besides, you know, what was a benefit to me. I look at who I am now on this side of it, and I am grateful for the ugly, for the bittersweet, for walking away from the team, from walking away from that life. I am grateful for the hardships because without the hardships, we don't get to this. We don't get to talk to Elmer
yep,
about all the great things he's doing now. We don't get to sit down and have a conversation with somebody that, just like me, was willing to risk it all and willing to go into the unknown to find a better life. That's what we've done. That's the
yeah,
beauty of it. You might not have never been a Green Beret and I might have never been Amish, but when we sit down and we share our stories with each other and we connect, we realize that shit, like we've been through something, Elmer. We've been through something that we can both appreciate and look through and understand that life is amazing. It
yeah. It
takes a lot
is.
of work.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a firm believer that there's hard work. If you want what you want, there's hard work comes first, and you're gonna be put to the test before you get the easy
Yes.
work. It's like you have to go through the hard times to find the good place. It's pretty interesting. Like no matter what it is in life, you whatever you're after seems like you have to go through the hard time first before it gets easy. And I think
Absolutely.
sometimes, as much as this don't sound good, I think sometimes it might be necessary to go through the hard times so you have good time and peaceful times. And I sometimes I wonder if that's where we're at with this country.
Yeah. Dead fucking on it, Elmer. Dead on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
You
don't I don't know much about like military stuff like that, but I do trying to, I watch a little bit. I try to search some stuff, you
yeah.
know. And yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
When I first left, I always thought it'd be a good idea to I always want to be in the military or in law enforcement or any of that
Mhm.
form, but I quick realized being my height, it's not as easy. It's not when you come up against a real dude that's out to get you, when you can't see in the car, see the
Yeah.
steering wheel, that's not gonna be that easy. So
Yeah.
here I am. I got to chat with you.
That's right. And that's a understanding that, we find our true calling in life when we're willing to sit still and reflect. I know that, yeah, I'm no different. I've tried bashing my head in the doors that just won't open for a long time. Uh, but it's those closed
Yep,
doors. It's those obstacles that are not movable that lead us to the right path.
yep, and
Keep fighting through and keep getting to, there's going to be a lot of no's. There's going to be a lot of blocked pathways, but find your own way, find the right
yep,
path for you. And then
yep,
you'll look back and you'll realize, man, back being a cop is great, but it's not for me. Being a detective or being a security guard, all that stuff sounds great, wonderful. But if it's not your true calling, if it's not your true purpose, you got to keep looking. The right things
yep,
out there. And
yep, exactly.
I know we talked briefly that was something that you were looking into. You wanted to be, you know, either a police officer or look into investigation work. But what are you doing now in terms of work?
I went out and I got a dozer. My buddy has an excavator, and we do some site job. I did. My buddy Kelvin, he had a land. It's like 25 acres. I just put a road in there, and we built a small hunting camp up there. So just a little bit of anything right now. I'm just trying to talk to people,
Heck
you
yeah.
know, and trying to get my name out there. We'll see
Yeah.
where it goes. I have a huge drive. Also had a huge drive to be an undercover, but that'll probably never happen. But I also thought it would be a good thing to get into it, work for
Yeah.
a private agency and stuff like that. But there's a we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, man. You just have to keep driving on and keep figuring out what you truly want to do in life. And with your work ethic and ambition, like you have you have everything it takes to be successful in this English world.
Well, thank you,
I mean,
thank you. Yeah.
when you think about that young boy that was thinking about that world, that big world outside, what are some things that what were like some of the first few things that you rushed out to try? Was it like fast food? What were some of the
Oh,
things where you're like, I have to try this right now?
oh, boy, I probably traveling. That's
Yeah.
probably one of the fastest thing was probably traveling. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to be sitting in a car going through territory I never could go through or not. My horse was not able to go that far in a day's time,
Yeah.
and just to a mall to just about anything, just
Nah.
seeing stuff.
Yeah.
Um, going hunting and fishing. Just it was way more. I love hunting, fishing a lot, and it was way more easier, In Amish, you can't dress up in camouflage clothes. You got to be all. You have your blue jeans on. It's like the most easiest thing that a deer will see. So yeah.
Yeah. And I I think this goes with that. I have to ask you, are there anything's or is there anything that you miss about the simple life? Anything that you look
So
back and you wish you could have?
probably the thing that I miss the most is the Amish cook food, the home baked food.
Yeah.
That's like, I'm getting a lot better at cooking now, But in the Amish, the boys had no business in the kitchen, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Like yeah, I mean, when I left, I barely knew how to fry an egg, you know. That's
Truly on
yeah,
your own now. Yeah.
yeah.
What are some things that
Right.
you've what is something that you've learned to cook?
No, I learned how to cook pretty much anything. I even learned how to make my own bread and make cold
Nice.
pie. Uh,
Yeah.
I learned how to make my own dough, you know.
There you go, man. Like you're learning it. That's the beauty of
Yeah,
having to like because it's we see it in a lot of different cultures where it's very separated. The men do the outside work, the men do the the rigorous work, and the women, cook and clean. But uh there is something to be said about being able to provide yourself with your own meal. Like that's important. That's a true, testament of a full, well-rounded man. You can do everything. You don't need to, segregate work to this and oh man, you can take care of yourself. You can do everything.
yeah. I try as much as I can. It is the thing is, if when you're by yourself and you cook a meal and it didn't lock you, I just start over, you know, until you figure it out. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like when you're by yourself and you have to cook for 10, 15 people. There's a whole different level there. Oh, yeah, we had so in Amish, like as far as they don't have refrigerators and stuff like that
Hmm.
the way I grew up. So in the cellar, they had a huge cellar where we have all our canned foods in there. And when it came to fish, in the summer there was like a day or 2 days maybe we go fishing. We catch a lot of fish. And we would put it in. We flay the fish, clean them all up and stuff, and then we lay them on a towel, kind of dry it a little bit,
Hmm.
and then we put them in 5-gallon buckets. We put layer salt in the bottom, and then the flays on top, lay it on top, and then another layer of salt until the bucket was full. And I remember we had some buckets in the cellar that was 5, 10 years old,
Oh
and
wow.
they would never go spoil. And a couple things like that, I always try to remember it just in case. You never know, power
Yeah.
goes out, shit hits the fan.
Oh yeah.
You might be able to survive.
Well, I
Yeah.
know who I'm calling for old world knowledge.
Yeah.
But it's something special, and it is important to keep that knowledge, and
Yeah, it is.
we're better prepared for life. And I also think it's man, we've gotten too soft as a culture, as American culture. We've gotten way too soft, and everything's about
Oh,
convenience. We don't talk about prepping. We don't talk about making sure that everybody knows how to take care of themselves. Like there is a huge disconnect with where do we get our foods in
yeah.
modern urban cities. Like it's like I grew up hard. I grew up understanding the value and how to hunt, how to fish, how to be uh, self-sustaining. But a lot of people don't, and that's really missed right now. We
Yeah.
have a complete disconnect. Um, yeah, so don't lose that. That's a very valuable skill to have. So continue
Yeah.
practicing that stuff.
Yeah. I'll try to remember that. Now there's a lot that there's just so much that they keep the Amish have that they don't talk outside the world, you know. There's
Yeah.
just of course back in the days when the ice storm happened, was that 98 or whenever it was, that huge ice storm happened through New York. I was younger and I'm like, man, this is cool. We could drive sled and anything like that, you know. I
Yeah.
didn't think about the worldly people can't get their water. We had traffic lined up down the road, and that's when our work began for us boys. We had to stand at that hand pump pumping water for the American people, you know.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that, like, you know, these are some things that keep in the back of my head just
Yeah.
in case, you know.
Yeah. It's
But
crazy. People know where to go. If they're around those communities. They're like, Well, we don't have water. We don't have electricity. Everything's shut down by the Amish.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say that's you have Amish guys around you. Um, you don't have too much to worry about as long as you're a good neighbor with them, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, there's they keep a lot.
Yeah.
Now there's like as far as Amish houses and their building stuff, like as far as the houses, they have rules how to build them houses. Like the way I grew up, they're all the Amish houses were all the same as far as how they can build them.
Hmm.
Certain measurement, and they always try to keep the porch towards the road. Um, and they all pretty much keep the same measurements. Even the window sills, the washboards, everything like that. There's a measurement. They all got to be just so. And the
Really?
curtains on the window, they got to be just so. Like the top curtain, the seam can be maybe, I don't know. I'm just making these numbers up. But
Yeah.
I can't remember the rules on that. But it might be an inch on the top and an inch
Yeah.
on the bottom, on the side, maybe an half inch inseam. They had rules on pretty much everything in the house. And then as far as the floor goes, they had to have a hardwood floor, and it's the 2.5 inches wide, tongue and groove.
Wow.
So yeah, and then the walls had to be drywall. Couldn't be knotty pine or anything like that.
Everything has to be a certain way. And I think the most notable thing is the barn raising. That's something that I think everybody
Yeah,
sees. Like the Amish can put up a barn in like less than like 8 hours. It's like insane.
yeah. They get together, have a couple little small frolics to get the basement done, and then they have a couple guys get together and they get everything ready for about a week, and then one day they have of course they let everybody know one day they'll have
Hmm.
about 150 men, and they they will start early morning, probably around 7:30, and by noon or 1 o'clock they better be putting some roof on.
Hmm.
And it goes pretty fast. It's a To be in charge with it, you have a lot going on at
Yeah.
once. But once everybody does it, it's not too bad. As long as they work as a team.
Yeah.
My brother Yuri, he does the barn raising up in Maine. I believe this summer he had one barn every week,
Ooh,
different place.
that's that's backbreaking work, like clockwork, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
insane.
right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine that life. And I have to imagine there is some fun. There's got to be some moments where like the families are able to relax. What is that like? What is it like when the Amish are able to sit down and do you remember fun times, amazing times between you and your family? Like, what are those
Um.
times like?
So me and my family, like as far as well, towards the end of it, me and my brother Yuri, everybody, all the rest of them got married. So it was only me and my brother Yuri. We
Mm.
would, what we call fun times were head back in the woods, go for a walk, sneak our BB gun with us, and go back, shoot squirrels and whatever we had going on.
Just causing mischief.
Yeah, causing mischief. I'd be going down the road and go to neighbors, watch
Yeah.
some TV, watch some westerns.
Which is completely not allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Elmer, thank you so much for being here. I do have one last question. What is the most amazing thing that you have discovered so far in your new journey being in the new world?
Oh boy. I well, I really don't know. Probably traveling across the states is one
Yeah.
of the amazing things. One of the amazing things always amazed me is how the internet, how the phones
Yeah.
work. how the technology works. That always amazed me over and over.
Yeah.
And I try to get tech savvy, but I'm not very I'm not there yet.
Don't
As
worry,
much as I love.
between me and David, I'm sure we can help you figure it out.
Yep.
Are you planning to head down to Miami anytime soon to see David, by the way?
Um, I will probably in the future.
Nice.
If I will probably. I had plans to head down that way end of this month, but I probably won't be end of this month, but it'll maybe in December.
Awesome. Elmer, and are you on social media, by the way?
Yeah, I do have TikTok, Facebook. Um
Do you have
I
Instagram?
Yeah, I do.
What's your
Instagram.
Instagram?
Elmer's at well, it's Elmer's World.
Elmer's World. There you go. All right, to you listeners out there. If you want to try to get a hold of Elmer and hear more about his story, hit him up on his Instagram, Elmer's World, or reach out to him via TikTok or Facebook. Elmer, it's
Yeah.
been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for reminding us that even though we come from completely different worlds and different cultures, we've all struggled and we all share in this wonderful human experience. That's been an absolute pleasure. And don't be a stranger. Reach out if you need anything, brother. It's been a
Okay.
pleasure. All right,
Okay,
everybody.
thank you.
We'll
Thanks
see
for
y'all
having me
next
on
time.
here. Yep. See you next time.
Yeah, that was awesome, man.